Yes, we are live. Okay, so welcome to my thoughts on The Gifted Season 2, Episode 16. This episode is called Omens, and this is another episode. I love spoilers for everything live-action X-Men leading up to and including this episode. The episode, I want to say, is rated TV 12+ or something like that, so will this video be? Let's dive right in. So yeah, this was an excellent season finale. It is, of course, at least slightly frustrating that this ended up being the series finale, and it's very clear, especially from the ending moments here, they were not... yeah. I don't know. I'm not 100% certain if it was... No, yeah, it was probably canceled before they had a chance to... It seems kind of petty to leave us thinking, oh, I really wanted to see that, if they knew they weren't going to get it. And this show really doesn't have a petty streak, so yeah. Okay, so let's... Yeah, I'm gonna try to start... Yes, so... Reed is a pretty good place to start. Yeah, he dies taking Reva out. It's the big climactic battle of people whose name starts with the letters R-E-E. I thought they did a good job building up to his sacrifice here. We get several flashbacks, significant for him, and we see 715 and his reaction. We see the time where Lauren, suddenly calls because, her mutant powers, we were told about it in an earlier episode, and we even see her try to tell him that she's a mutant and not being able to because, she's worried how he'll react. Again, something we were told in an earlier episode. She tried over the years, but she couldn't, she was afraid of how he'd react. And yeah, I like the fact that, one of the flashbacks, before Lauren calls, there is, Caitlin is suggesting some amorous activity. I think we gotta get past this, stereotype that, once a couple are married, especially if they have kids, there's just no, romantic drive left at all. For some, it's true. For a number of people, it's not. And I wonder if that scene was partially written by a parent, because it is indeed one of their offspring that stops them from the amorous, Now, I think that brings us nicely into, he suggests that he, let's see, suggests that he come with to stop Reva. And they do underline, once Reva's got, and they do say at the end of the episode, well, technically the mutant uprising, people still want to join it. But yeah, Reva was the big mastermind, And let's see, once it's clear that it's going to be very difficult for the others to get up there, he goes by himself. And you have that thing about, she takes away control of mutant powers. Reed can't control, Reed himself says, I can't control my mutant powers, this is how to go. And that is, that was set up earlier. I forget if it was in was it at all in the last season? Certainly it was. If not, then it was introduced in the season opener of this season. Because if Reva could kill with her power and not just make you unable to focus and control your mutant powers, she wouldn't need the Frosts to go around shooting people when she took out the original inner circle, or the other, the prior inner circle, so, and of course she has no idea that his power, does she even know that he has powers? I'm not entirely sure she does, because the Frosts left before that. I'm not entirely sure she does. Certainly she doesn't know that, she doesn't know enough to know that this isn't going to work. And yeah, really badass when he, he's like starting to destroy the floor and does, take her out. And I really do love that in these Marvel live action shows, like, you know how in some of the MCU movies, the villain will, like, die off screen or be implied to die, but we won't quite see, we'll see something that we can, like, deduce, okay, that must have killed them. But no, in some of the, it's, I suppose not all the time, but in some of these, it's like, no, 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 they're dead, they're gone, like, watch them explode, that, yeah. And let's see, yeah, I really appreciate that here at the end, like, Reed does try to talk to her, and the couple of things, she has a few key lines that make it clear there's no talking her out of it, and I especially appreciate the line, the exchange, you can't build a nation, crap, you can't build a nation on a pile of dead bodies, something like that. And she says, read your history books, that's the only way you can build a nation. And that's, again, one of those things where there is some truth to, if you, yeah, look at history, there are a number of nations that were built upon a lot of pain and suffering. But the fact that, that's the kind of thing that should lead you to think, then we shouldn't, then we need to fix the nations we have instead of building new ones, if there's no way to, because you can improve what's there with that. We've seen that throughout history. There's a lot of political movements that made things better without, like, hurting. Certainly, they didn't hurt anyone who gave them a choice not to hurt them, and yeah, some of these movements, yeah, like the they chose nonviolence wherever they could. And let's see, yeah, he ends up taking her out, and let's see, yeah, the his sacrifice is not forgotten. And we have the what's it called, these what's the word, the eulogy, I guess. Yeah, we hear clips from the eulogies. And yeah, ultimately there's not a lot of screen time for the grief, but the show has done a lot with grief over the course of it, so I don't think it needed to spend more time on, yeah. And maybe they would have if they had gotten a third season. And it's not impossible that the MCU, that Disney, Marvel will revive it now that they, it was canceled by Fox. Although it's, yeah, okay. Let's see. Was it canceled because they were selling the rights back to Marvel, or was it just canceled and it happened to work out time-wise? Because technically this was around the time that there were other... Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, Disney has brought back other... Daredevil is now in the MCU, so it is entirely possible. I'm not saying, it has to happen, or I'll be deeply despairing or something. I'm just saying I think it would be very cool if they did. Now, let's see. Yes, so obviously, like, I'm not saying, false dichotomy, but if it's one or the other, I'd rather they treat their workers better, their employees. Now, then we have loud people outside. I don't know if if the microphone is picking that up. I'll try to talk louder. I'm good at that. Yes, so I think that covers Reed. So, yeah, Caitlin, yeah, pretty, we have that thing about, she has more guns, you didn't tell me, I'm telling you now. Yeah, she's been keeping some secrets as well. Hers are just more badass than his. And we get this, point made that, in America it's very easy to get guns. I don't know how I feel about it, because, like, I am 100% in favor of gun control. But these guns are in the hands of the good guys, though. Like, yeah, it's kind of feeling like one of those vigilante stories where, the good guy with a gun kind of. So yeah, I don't love that. But then there's also guns in the hands of the purifiers, and they're not like cops or military. So yeah, mixed bag. Some of the show is mixed bag. Now, leaning towards positive for me. Anyway, then we have, I suppose the yeah. Let's head to, we have the yeah, when she's, she tries to talk Reed out of it, but he is making a lot of sense. So he heads to the elevator, and she's like dual wielding. Like, they really did. Somebody, I don't know if it was Amy Acker herself, but somebody really wanted to bring her back to the level of badassness that she was at in Alias Season 5, and I'm here for it. It was so cool. Yeah, that covers her. So, yeah, we can, yeah, Lauren and Andy don't really act a part in this episode, so let's just, have them hold hands and cover them together. Yeah. This thing of, like, I will say, once the purifiers surrounded the place, I was thinking, I mean, other than Fenris, I don't know how they're going to be able to get out of there. And yeah, Andy's like, I think this is the time, and Lauren's like, I can't even think about that right now. And then and great with the little, creaking floors, like, what is it? Mom and Dad closed that door. Very nicely. And yeah, Fade, crap, was it Lauren who said, Caitlin, I really hate that guy, or something like that? Or was it Reed? It was one of the, yeah, someone in this episode. I forget exactly who, but yeah, that was pretty good. And yeah, that is, of course, I love how tactical the mutant power use is on this show. Nothing like X-Men: The Last Stand. Now that the show is, now that I've watched every episode, I'm not going to be able to complain about X-Men: The Last Stand not being as good as the show, in videos on the show, at least. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, so then we have the, what's the other thing? Yeah, there was a little bit of a struggle. We see that the, table and chair were cut from the lineup, but ultimately, yeah, the triplets, with their telepathic powers, are able to take them over. And John is able to eventually spot them, but at first he all he sees is Clarice. And let's see, then we have the yeah, they get to the tunnels and get to the actual, and we get the thing about Esme calling Reba and saying they'll get a stroke or they could have a stroke if we push harder. And this is also, they might have also said earlier, but this is, of course, why they don't use their powers to... Yeah, I think Esme said it in an earlier episode. If we use our powers to force people to do what we want for too long, they could have a stroke. And yeah, they get them to the building, which I believe is the Sentinel Services building. And yeah, they destroy it. Very evocative imagery, I could imagine it's supposed to invoke 9/11, the way that they've been with 7/15. And let's see, yeah, and ultimately, once they're in the parking garage, I really appreciate that it's not superpowers but empathy that saves the day. Polaris talks to Esme, and you get that thing, there is no you, there is only we. You are nothing without us. No, she's not nothing. She's my friend. And I just want there to be an outtake where Esme says, "Do you need another ride to the airport? Is that what this is about?" But yeah, manages to loosen the control just enough, and Marcos shoots them. And I think the idea is that they die, and it is one of those things where, like, yeah, if again, I think violence should always be the last resort. I only ever enjoy it in fiction. But yeah, I think the other two of the triplets would have kept fighting if they weren't. Yeah. Let's see. And I guess that covers everything for Lauren. And right, I appreciate the line about, they talk about bringing the building down, and there's that thing about, I'm so sorry that I couldn't help it, something like that. There's not much to say about Esme that I haven't just said, so I'll just briefly, I really liked when she, forced Ryan to confess. That was quite a good. See, I am almost never in favor of taking away someone's free will, but if telepathy were a thing in real world, if we could, if there was anyone out there who could actually force someone to tell the truth, even when they really don't want to, I do think forcing people who are doing something terrible and hiding it to confess like this, yeah, I approve. It has my stamp of approval. And let's see. Yes, I think. Do you think elephants ever give their stamp of approval, or are there? Maybe their stamping isn't. Anyway, let's see. That covers, and I guess that also covers Ryan. So yeah, the right, and I do enjoy seeing him not in control of the media narrative for once. That because he's done so much damage with it. Right, I did like Reva calling, do you know what time it is? It's time for you to get to work. Yeah. Ryan, Benedict, did you forget who has the power in this relationship? Yeah, there's not really anything else to say about Reva. Yeah. She doesn't care that it might cause a stroke. She just wants results. And I do appreciate, she didn't say at the end of the episode before this one that I don't think the line was we can do it without the Strucker powers. I think the line was we well, I mean, she did say we don't need them. Is that supposed to be like we don't need them to agree? Yeah, that was a little. I guess it's possible that she changed her mind or something. Yeah, that was a little. Yeah, these last couple of episodes, some of them will end in a way that really implies one thing, and then the next episode will undo that. I don't love that. Now, let's see. I think that does cover everything for them. Not a lot to say about Marcos. I did think it was really sweet that he got to he and Lorna got to reunite with the baby, and they tell little Aurora Dawn, we'll be with you soon. Yeah, I think that covers. Yeah, so let's see. We've got. So let's see. There's Jace and John, and then there is stuff like action and the ending wrap up. Yeah, I think honestly, Jace, John, and Erg. I'll briefly. Yeah, there's fairly little to say about Erg. I did think it was really cool, and I really appreciate I'm doing this for Blink. This is don't think I like you, but she would have wanted this. I am honoring her memory, and I really appreciate that because, yeah, it is. I've personally found that is a way to help grief, is to honor their memory. Obviously, don't do it if they wanted you to do something that was like ethically wrong, but yeah, should go without saying, doesn't always. Yeah, the thing, hit me, and again, I just want there to be an outtake where Erg says, I know it might be difficult, and then John just punches him or something, just, yeah. But yeah, several punches, and, they use that to take out the purifiers and Jace, and yeah, I'll just briefly, Jace, I will admit, if you go back and watch my videos, I'm not gonna try to like Monday morning quarterback, I think it's called, I admit I was wrong. I did think that there was at least some chance that Jace was going to have a change of heart before the end of this season. I do think there's room for it, if, or there was room for it if they had gotten a third season. Maybe they will at some point. Anyway, but yeah, the ultimately, I think maybe he would have if not for, Reed killing Ted, and that's also it's explained that's why the cops are okay with the Purifier's actions in this episode, which, that is sadly, nothing seems to motivate, American cops quite as much as if one of them has been, killed or hurt or accused of something they did, insulted, something like that, so, yeah. And let's see. Yeah, I think, really intense when John, just, beats Jace and leaves him there. And it seems like he was going to kill him, and Jace says, I want to be reunited with Grace, and ultimately John doesn't, and, he and Erg escape from there. And let's see. Yeah, I do really appreciate, Erg, like, when we first met him earlier in this season, it really seemed like he would never have agreed to help fight. And it's not like he's doing it to protect Morlocks. He came to save John because it's what Clarice would have wanted. So she really did have an impact on him. It just didn't happen before the Morlocks were made refugees. Or, I guess, before they were forced to leave one refugee camp. Which is also, again, like, I do think that it is very purposeful that we're, early in, in an earlier episode of this season, we saw, Americans with guns going in and clearing a refugee camp that literally had women and children in it, even though no one there was actually, a serious threat to, they weren't actively doing any, that is, again, sadly, something that has happened, is happening. I mean, technically, right now, it is not, it's more like IDF, with the support of Zionists, not all Jewish people, Zionists, in Gaza, but America is funding it. Now, let's see, I think that does pretty well cover, I don't really have anything else for Jace, but John, him deciding, I'm gonna go out there, I just need to distract them from the gate for long enough, and, segues nicely into the action, or should I talk just briefly? Okay, I'll just very briefly, I'm not going to forget the action. I'll just very briefly talk about the wrap-up at the end. So, it is one of those things where if they just didn't show Blink there at the end, it would have been like, okay, we can imagine what happens next kind of thing. Like, they're talking about stuff that, we might have seen in a third season. There's mutants out there who want to join the Uprising. we need to rebuild the mutant underground, which I do think, without Riva, without Sentinel services, yeah, like they might actually be able to do that, and it would be a very different dynamic than in these 2 seasons. Sentinels, I guess it's Sentinel services. It's more in the first season. In this one, it's maybe more Riva, but yeah, there were these major obstacles, in the way of, strengthening the mutant underground, and yeah, with those out of the way, I could see how that might have been. But yeah, the very end, yeah, I appreciate he could tell that something, even before the portal opened, he saw, because she like steps out of it to join, and yeah, it does appear that this is like Days of Future Past. There, yeah, I could see how a third season would at least partially have been Days of Future Past. Let's see. That would essentially mean, well, okay, hold on. Now that I think about it, okay, there's basically 2 options, the way I see it. Either Blink, with that last teleportation, went somewhere, maybe the future, and was healed, and that's what this is. Because she doesn't, like, yeah, I'm not 100% sure if this is a Blink that knows them. I feel like it could go either way, and they might have been leaving leeway for that. The alternative is that this is the introduction to this series, not the X-Men movies, but this series of alternate timelines. And yeah, I mean, we've just had 2 seasons that didn't have that. So that's one of those things, like, an alternate timeline, if you're introducing it very early in the show, that works. That's part of the show now. Otherwise, you shouldn't, like, I think if they had introduced it halfway through season 1, it might have been like, okay, this is, no, it's, you should have introduced it earlier or later. After 2 full seasons that don't have any alternate timeline stuff, yeah, I think it's fine. But yeah, alternatively, it's time travel that's being introduced. And again, same thing as with the alternate timeline. And yeah, it would definitely be very different from the first 2 seasons. I don't know if they would do a thing where everyone goes to, and is it also like, it seems like she's going to take them to the Days of Future Past. I guess, yeah, maybe they're like trying to recruit someone for, yeah, I mean, Wolverine in the movies, Wolverine was recruited to help for the Days of Future Past. Yeah, it could be something like that. Or maybe she would have taken them there briefly to show how bad it gets and like prove something. Maybe there's some object in the future that helps prove it, and then she would take them back, and then they're going to, stop something specific from happening or something. And I could see how, destruction of Sentinel services could lead to, or could be like the first step on the path to, because like she didn't travel back far enough to stop that, but maybe that's the first step, and not long after there's maybe an assassination or something, political assassination, and then that, but yeah. I guess they really can only go so long without doing Days of Future Past. Like the movies, this show, the 97 animated show, they're not the 90s animated show, 92 to 97 animated show. Yeah, it's a good story. I don't blame them. Now, let's see. I think that does pretty well cover the wrap up. I do really appreciate that Esme rejoined them, and it feels like I could believe that she would be allowed back in after helping to say, she didn't want to hurt Lauren and Andy, and she stopped that as soon as Polaris appealed to her, And I do really appreciate, yeah, the last episode ended with, the gang's all back together. We're putting the gang back together, big hero shot, and then this one just pulls them apart, tears them in different directions. That was really, effective bit of just, yeah. And yeah, I felt like this was a satisfying conclusion to the season. Everything that's been built up over the course of the season, there's some wrap up to. And yeah, I guess I'll just briefly talk about Jace before I get into the action scenes. Right, and that is technically part of the wrap up. That's why I saved it for now. So yeah, it's not clear what exact, because we see doctors, we see him with, you know, what's it called? Like his head is bandaged. Is that what y'all call it in English? And you know, is he, you know, in a coma? Is he gonna die within a month? Is he going to be okay, but it'll take a while to recover? Again, they were giving themselves some leeway for a third season, and yeah, I do think that that could have been, like, because, you know, almost dying can really change someone, you know, so I could see how that could be. I do. It would take a lot for him to be welcomed into the mutant underground. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible he could have gotten captured by, you know, mutants trying to restart the mutant uprising and been like a prisoner used for his tactical know-how or something. That would have been a very different thing from these first two seasons. You know, the way that, you know, him running the or I guess not. Yeah, him having a high position in the purifiers and being like in, you know, yeah, guiding them tactically in this season was very different from his position in Sentinel Services in season 1. You know, and that could maybe also be a thing, like, you know, maybe in a season 3 he would have felt betrayed. You know, because he could learn Riva has been working with Ryan. He confessed it. You know, I mean, we don't see that, but I could imagine that might be. Or let's see. I guess there's other ways to prove it. Did they take a picture of? I'm not sure they did bring a camera to the, but yeah, because he wouldn't trust anyone from the Mutant Underground. Anyway, it's possible that he would have been convinced of that, and that would have really, you know, accelerated the crisis of faith he was starting to have over the course of this season. I think that does cover the wrap-up. So action-wise, this had some of the best action, which is, of course, befitting for a season finale. Yeah, I mean, the stuff with, like, super strength, super durability, and, like, short-ranged combat with and without weapons, I think this might be the best in the entire show's run. And, yeah, you know, John, you know, running out there, taking some bullets and, like, you know, using one of the purifiers as a human shield. The bit with the chain was really intense, and he, you know, yeah, just some really great stuff. And let's see, him throwing the axe and it, like, getting stuck in the car was a very cool thing. And on the inner circle side, we have Bulk, you know, picking up and throwing really heavy stuff. And let's see, yeah, the entire fight in the high rise, you know, really cool. I like the thing with, you know, I can't believe I'm blanking on her name. Okay, I'm just really quickly. I'm gonna get treatment soon anyway. I can use my wrists a little bit more. Where is she really in the episode that little? She's not even on the, like, you have Human Woman is higher listed than her character. Heather. Her name is Heather. You know, yeah, she is, you know, she's teleporting these missiles into the, or rockets, you know, for use on other government buildings, as we've been told, you know, teleporting them into the car. And one of the others is like, be careful, you know, and Bulk is like, I like doing it the old-fashioned way. And he picks it up like it's nothing, which, you know, of course, in real life, like, yeah, it's I'm guessing it's made of styrofoam or something. You know, it really does weigh absolutely nothing, the prop. And yeah, I thought they did a really great job. You know, some teleporting and some exploding. You know, yeah, using powers and such in the and in the high rise. And meanwhile, you know, Lorna takes out the lights with her powers, and you have Marcos firing the, you know, yeah, I thought they did a really great job there, and it really built up very nicely. Like there near the end, it really was like, wow, how, you know, it seemed almost impossible for them to manage to escape from there. I suppose that covers it. Let's see. Was there anything that I thought would, let's see. I think they could have, in a third season, you know, another thing that could have happened is it could have further intensified with the, you know, like for sure it was brought to really intense level here with the, you know, the let's see, the purifiers, because of the attack. You know, let's see, in part it, you know, one of the things that made it worse was the climax of season 1, the, you know, the let's see, the Hound program, you know, the various stuff that Mutant Underground did to stop it. You know, some of that was violent, and the let's see, the protesters, because people became more aware of how badly mutants were being treated, in part because of the Hound program. You know, and yeah, here, like, I could see how this works as a culmination, because the purifiers are at their strongest here in this climax, and the let's see, but yeah, I think a third season might have had, you know, you could, with Ryan gone, I'm not sure that the purifiers would just immediately shut down, but I could see how they might end up like splitting into a bunch of splinter cells that then make these less effective but still like we got to stop them kind of attacks. And maybe some of the human protesters start forming, you know, a more like, because in this season it is, they are protesting, and there's some clashes between the two sides as far as protesting goes. I could imagine maybe there's enough support that you know, someone will run for office, maybe even a mutant, I guess, although that, I mean, that would require some law changes, but maybe you'd have a human who's sympathetic to mutants try to run for office, and so you could have, you know, purifiers and maybe Mutant Uprising try to take her out, because they, you know, the latter figuring, you know, oh, it'll just end up making things worse. That we can't go this slow, kind of thing. You know, like how Riva was willing to sacrifice mutants, and that was also a great moment. You know, I'm afraid I forget when it was. I think it was maybe the triplets here who point out. Was it Lorna who pointed out? You know, there's a conversation there where you have this thing of like, yeah, you know, you're hurting mutants now. Wasn't this exactly what we were trying to stop? You know, how is, yeah, Lorna points out to Esme, how is this different from what was done to you and your sisters? All, you know, all 5 of you were abused. You know, let's see, and I think, yeah, I could see how they could maybe do some stuff with like actual political debate, a la, you know, the first of the X-Men live-action movies, you know, and that could be a thing. Maybe, yeah, maybe you could have, like, so far in these 2 seasons, you don't really have a face to the mutant, like a public face, like, you know, Sentinel Services and Mutant Uprising know who some of that was also like, holy crap, Riva really was just like, yeah, if she needs to, she will take out or I suppose, no, yeah, because she sends the purifiers. She expects them to kill the Mutant Underground, and she she doesn't only take Lauren and Andy. That would have been bad enough, but she could have done that without purifiers there, or at the very least she could have called off the purifiers after that. She could have used the triplets to get them away from there, but she wanted the Mutant Underground dead. Now that they're that much of a thorn in her side, she was really just giving them grace, not the character. But yeah, third season, maybe there would be a public face. Maybe there would be some mutant who would come out and say, I'm a mutant, I'm a good person. You can look into my record. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not. We're not affiliated with Geeks and Gamers as far as I'm concerned. Just that whole kind of thing. And maybe you could have something in you could have some like a character assassination, maybe even literal character assassination in there. Just yeah, it would change things up in an interesting way. And I do think that for sure the destruction of Sentinel services it would galvanize at least some the bigots. But you could also have on the other side, if the political candidate knows and Esme could tell them that was not the Mutant Underground, that was the Mutant Uprising, and you know what happened after? The Mutant Underground stopped them. Mutants are our friends. So some mutants are our friends. You could have something like that. Yeah, I think they did a really great job with these 2 seasons, making them distinct enough, and I could absolutely imagine they would have done the third, maybe will, if, with a third season or something. And yeah, just really, really amazing show. Gonna miss it, but it was deeply satisfying. I'm so glad that they did get, was it 29 episodes, and didn't, yeah. Let's see, was there another thing? No, I think that was absolutely fabulous and everything. So yeah, next show I will do is season 2 of Cloak and Dagger, and once I've done a video on each episode of that, I will do the review of that. And even before I start on that show, I will do a spoiler-free review of this show, probably very soon. We'll see exactly how soon. So yeah, hope to catch you then. And I am also really looking forward to Cloak and Dagger season 2. I thought there was a lot to love about season 1.